We can't see or hear anyone who isn't on the stage right now. So you are welcome to get a snack, drink, hang out however you want, make silly faces at us. We won't see you or hear you, but you can interact with us in the Zoom chat, and there's also the Q&A area of Zoom as well. And any kind of questions, I'll mostly leave them till the end unless they're like super relevant to what we're talking about at the time. Um, do anything else? Oh, and in case you don't know me, I've been kind of around in the community and stuff. I'm Mivy. I'm one of the facilitators at Uncommon. I run quite a few different things now. I do some Minecraft, some Roblox, sometimes social clubs, sometimes video. It kind of it's lots of different things. I have ADHD, and I was diagnosed around 2 years ago while I was finishing uni. And I'm still very much learning how to navigate that. And I think kind of these talks and like hanging out with a lot of you guys really helps kind of learn from each other. So that brings us to what we're doing today. These role model talks are designed to showcase some wonderful neurodivergent people who kind of have overcome challenges, have been learning, they're on their own journey as well. So it's great to kind of see how people get into what they're doing and how they kind of use their passions for that. So after that little very quick spiel, actually, Vijay, would you like to introduce yourself?
So, hi everyone. My name is Vijay. I'm a character artist, workshop facilitator, and public speaker. So, I've done a 2D digital animation degree at the University of Hertfordshire, and done some exhibitions in Hertfordshire and London not too long ago. And I have about 12 years of experience in facilitating workshops. So, last year I completed the Hatch business launchpad program, and off the back of that, I've been studying data analytics for about 8 9 months and learning some programming. I've actually completed one internship for a few months with a company called Tectonic, and I'm also advocating in terms of public speaking. Advocating for hidden disabilities, neurodiversity, and mental health. So and intersectionality as well. Actually, that's a really big one. So
Mm.
that's what I'm doing.
Yeah, I'm so excited for us to just be able to chat today. So I guess just basically to get right into it, could you tell us what it was like for you growing up neurodivergent?
Well, I didn't know I was neurodivergent until recently in 2020 when I was diagnosed with ADHD, OCD, dyspraxia, and mixed anxiety and depressive disorder. What preceded a couple of years after that was CPTSD, which is complex post-traumatic stress disorder. Now, currently, I'm going through the right to choose process with my GP to get diagnosed with ASD. My first diagnosis was in 2009 when I was in my second year of university, which was dyslexia. And I didn't really get the full support. I did get some sort of one-to-one support, but I didn't, get all the amenities. In terms of my childhood, my whole life, I was bullied at school as a child, and I didn't fit in. So I focused on my special interest of art and other subjects such as graphic design, IT. Culturally, it was quite confusing being a British Indian
Mm.
because there was two dual cultures telling me two different things. So that was my sort of upbringing, growing up being neurodivergent.
So it's interesting to hear about how you kind of used what you were passionate about to kind of help you navigate through that and kind of act as like, I guess, like a beacon of light in some sort of ways. Could you tell me more about what you found you were really good at when you were young?
Well, it was always art. That was my special interest growing up. But as I said, it's split into graphic design, IT, other creative subjects because I always had a strong imagination. And from filling the forms to do with ASD diagnosis, I found from my mum that I was always interested in assembling, organizing, and tidying. So that was quite interesting to find out. But aside of that, I was with my uncles and aunts. I was gardening and learning DIY. there's other areas of creativity that I was exploring, um, being neurodivergent.
Yeah, yeah. I feel like a lot of those kind of feed into the different aspects of being neurodivergent. As you said, you've kind of been getting a lot of diagnoses recently. Is that the right word?
Yes, that,
I don't know. Yeah. So kind of working through that and learning to um like use your skills and your passions and your what you're good at. Was there a time where you started to feel like proud of being neurodivergent, even though you've mentioned like you didn't know that you were at the time?
it's only more recently that I'm accepting my um, neurodivergence. The more events I go to, the more things I participate in, the more neurodiverse community I meet, the more I feel a sense of belonging and acceptance, and I just find it easier to connect with neurodiverse individuals. Um, so my confidence is slowly growing
Mm.
in terms of how proud I am of being neurodivergent. So
Yeah, I feel like for me, just kind of, and we've kind of discussed this in the past, it's quite useful to be able to hear about other people's experiences and just feel a sense of like normalcy in ourselves. Especially kind of like if our peers aren't experiencing exactly the same thing, it's
mm,
nice to kind of find places of belonging. Um, so, how did embracing your differences help you feel better about yourself?
well, the main thing for me, the reason I pursue my diagnoses is acceptance and closure. Those are the two sort of main reasons, and that helped me make sense of my life struggles. As I said, it was very confusing growing up, um, with many different things going on, and it's helped me to advocate and reach you and focus on my strengths as opposed to what I'm lacking. So um, that's how it's helped me. Um, it's helped the future really.
Mm, yeah, yeah, definitely. Um, yeah, I think it is a lot about kind of flipping stuff on its head, and maybe I'm not the best at maths for me, but I am very creative, and I think that's such a big strength to be able to have, and I'm sure that you can relate with being able to kind of conjure up characters out of creativity and stuff. Sure. um
Definitely.
so I guess kind of going on to like school, did you face any challenges while you were kind of growing up and going through school?
School was very challenging. I didn't like school, to be honest with you. I thought it was quite restricting for me with the way I was and the way my mind was wired. I faced a lot of bullying, I faced a lot of discrimination, even racism.
Mm,
I was constantly overwhelmed. I was emotionally dysregulated. I didn't even know what that was then. I struggled to communicate and express myself. Exams were hard, anything with sort of pressured environments. I didn't get extra time in exams, again, because I didn't know I was neurodiverse. In terms of punctuality, I was always late, I wasn't on time. I had lots of sensitivities as well to textures, food,
mm,
lighting. I'm light sensitive. And like, for example, there was a polo top that we had to wear as part of our uniform, and I find that them really like itchy, even now. And I just had to deal with it. But there's a Vanish advert. I don't know if any of you have seen that, but it's talking about, I think it's a autistic girl who has her like favorite top, but she's not allowed to take it to school, and it causes her to have a meltdown or shut down. So um, sensitivities were a big issue. There were no quiet rooms. There was no area to
mm,
sort of deregulate, like, um, and in terms of sports, because I'm also hypermobile, so that often accompanies neurodivergence, and I injured myself a lot, so I always had notes to the teacher saying, "Oh, from my parents saying, Vijay can't do PE today because he's hurt himself." So there's quite a range of school challenges I had there, that I'm sure many of you can relate to.
Yeah, 100%. It's only kind of now that I've recently actually been thinking about some of the sensitivities that I had slash still have. Like, I am very sensitive to natural light, and it's only now that I've been like, I have to take sunglasses everywhere I go because outside just it's not it hurts my eyes a lot, especially when it snows and it's sunny. I can't see.
On the
Um
same, on the same there.
yeah, it's not. Oh, like I was putting away like a tent a couple of years ago. Or what is it? Like those big tents, and I had to like have my eyes closed because it was white and it was a sunny day and I just couldn't see. Yeah, that's just a tiny thing, but it's nice to hear kind of like stuff that's relatable. And just quick, one person has asked, what is hypermobile?
So hypermobility is to do with the collagen in the body, and so you may have joints that are more flexible, but it's not only your joints; it's also it can be your internal organs and your intestine and things. So you can have internal issues as well as the joints, and your skin can be more flexible. There's a whole range of different hypermobi hypermobile. So it's called generalized hypermobility spectrum disorder. So there's a spectrum of hypermobility disorders. So yeah, collagen is the key word.
It's very interesting because some people might not even know that they're hyper mobile in some ways. And
Yeah.
some people, like my friend has dyspraxia, she's very much, again, kind of hurting herself a lot by accident and stuff. Kind of going off that, how did you handle the challenges that you had kind of at school? Were there any teachers, friends, family who helped you?
Well, I'm an 80s baby, so there wasn't much support back in those days in school. I just worked really hard. Um, but my uncles and cousins, family did help me, but they struggled to understand my specific challenges to do with neurodivergence. I used to have meltdowns, shutdowns, when I couldn't do my homework. I really struggled. I cried, uh, and again, my family, they didn't understand what was going on, and I was also bullied. And again, my family struggled to understand that also. But initially, I fought back through the different schools and things, but then I just masked and froze and
Mm,
shut down. So, you know, it was very difficult. I was harsh. Then I then internalized that, and I was harsh to myself growing up. But now, I've flipped it around. I'm kinder to others, and now I'm sharing all these things, all the struggles with you, so that it can help the future. So
mm.
those are my
Yeah,
challenges. And I overcame those.
I
Um,
find like a lot of what I do now is because I want to be what I wanted when I was younger. Like the person that I wanted to help me. So I find that very important, and also like it is a nice kind of guide for you, like morally,
yeah,
to be able to like navigate in that way. Um, how
that's
how
a really nice way of putting it. Actually, that's a really nice way
Yeah,
of putting it. I think.
exactly. It's just it's always that thing of like think of who you want help from, be that person,
Definitely,
because sometimes you can't find it.
definitely.
In terms of kind of like making friends and dealing with social situations, especially in school when so much is going on, how did you go about that?
Well, I still have friends from when I was a child. Uh, I appeared on Tots TV actually with one of my
Oh my,
school friends. I don't know if anyone remembers that, but
that's a
we were like
throwback.
making a mess, putting paint on everyone and everything. And the friend that's with me in the video, actually, I'm going to meet him tomorrow. So, I'm, I still maintain my friendships from childhood, but, I've always struggled with my relationships, my friendships, historically, because I've been shy, sensitive, socially awkward. I've had a lot of anxiety, and I've had to mask. I've had to mask to fit in. So um, it's been a challenging area being neurodiverse.
Mm,
So,
yeah, definitely. I still find myself again learning how to unlearn some of those coping strategies. And like we said in kind of like another talk that we did, it is more sustainable to not have to mask around the people that you want to be with,
Yeah.
like long term. So kind of thinking about that, do you have any tips for, the people watching on kind of how to make friends when you find it difficult?
Well, just a note on that, I think it's about safety, isn't it? So where you feel safe is where you can sort of let your guard down. But my tips for the children, would be to be you and focus on your special interests, because that is where you might join a club. I don't know, it could be table tennis, it could be chess. Actually, chess was one thing I really liked to do growing up. So you might find someone that has the same interest in chess as you, or art, or whatever it is. And I would say play to your strengths.
Mm,
Speak out. This is why I'm speaking out, because suppressed it for so long. If you're bullied, make sure you speak out, tell your caregivers, and I think holding it in. This is from my personal experience. Holding it in can lead to greater problems. So it's that. This is why I'm doing the workshops. It's all about expression. It's all about speaking out, being you, authentic, and yeah, that's basically it. So
mm, definitely. Yeah, I think that's just the best way forward, because you attracts like type thing, like too many likes in that sentence, but it's definitely the best way of kind of finding the people who you're meant to be around and who will help kind of nourish you in some sort of way.
that's why
um
we're speaking right now.
exactly. Like attracts like. um
Exactly.
Going off like interests and finding what you like to do and like what you're good at, and how did you find what you love to do?
Well, I'm just me. I'm always been who I am. I can't help it. And as a child, I firstly introverted into my imagination. I dreamt, and I had all this sort of visions. I love to assemble and organize. After the playing, art became my language, my therapy, my freedom, my everything really. And it started with helping my peers in the class solve the technical problems to do with art. The technical problems, how to draw this better, or etc. But then I saw it's a wider problem in society. So through different jobs and interactions in the community, I saw that there's a wider problem of expression.
Mm.
And now the population, 20% of the population is neurodiverse. I mean, don't quote me, but I think that's like 12 million people in the UK. So that's why I'm doing these workshops to help you express yourselves, and that can then in turn help the future.
Yeah, definitely. It is just creating some sort of safe space to be able to explore, create, just yeah, being able to feel safe and expressing yourself is such an important thing. And I think, stuff like this is very useful. Um, so how was there, I know that you said that you kind of naturally drifted towards it, but was there something or someone that inspired you to follow your passions?
Well, it's in my blood, because my ancestors are all blacksmiths, goldsmiths, railroad workers, particularly my father's side. So, my dad showed me how to hone my skill of drawing growing up, and he'd always, walk in the room and say, if I was painting a portrait or anything, he'd say, what about this or that, or he'd give me little tips, constructive criticism, and so I started with copying fan art. I used to watch cartoons a lot with my brother, Dragon Ball Z, etc. So I started copying all this artwork, and at school I was learning about the artists, Picasso, Dali, etc. And that. So I was learning how to draw in their styles, as well as the style of the animators, for example. So that then, you know, has given me my own style. And it's only a few years ago that I started exhibiting my own work. So it takes
Mm.
time to develop your own sort of passion and skill set. Some part of it, I think, is sort of like hereditary, but you can't escape hard work as well. So yeah.
Yeah. My mum also, a lot of us in my family are also arty. And I grew up kind of definitely copying Pokemon like characters and
Oh
stuff
yeah,
for sure. Like
Pokemon.
um Pokemon's the best. For those of you interested, I put in the chat Vijay's like mural that he did recently for you to take a look at, and we can talk more about that either later or in our session on Thursday as well. So you kind of have your passion. You've been kind of working on it a bit. What did you do to then follow your dreams? And that's a
I
big
just
question, but like to take
yeah.
it further.
I just kept focusing on as I said, it's what I've always been doing innately, is focusing on my visions, my dreams, and finding different ways to bring them into reality. How do I make the untangible tangible? Because it's an image in my head from when I was a child, but then you know, it's how, and using the skill of which you'll see on Thursdays, joining basic shapes together, you can create characters, whatever cars, whatever you wish. So that's what I did, but I had a lot of challenges. I had a lot of negative talk from people around me, um, close to me, but mostly positive things about the art, but um, you know, negative things in general. So I just kept working hard, working hard, and working hard, and working hard. And I still am. So I don't want you to struggle like I've struggled. So this is sort of my teaching how to fish. If I teach you how to fish, you can catch your own fish, and then teach others how to fish, and then it's sort of like a domino effect. So
Mm.
um, that's how I'm following my dreams and how I'd encourage others to.
Yeah, I really like that. And I think, yeah, like we said, Thursday would be really good just to kind of introduce ways to breaking down what you want to create for sure. Um, in terms of kind of again following your passions, following your dreams, how do you feel like your neurodivergence helped you? Like in terms of skills and stuff like that?
I don't think I'd be who I am without my neurodivergence. If I was wired in a different way to how I am now, I don't think I'd be who I am. So my apparent weaknesses became my strengths. So hyper focusing in terms of ADHD it has been and it is my strength because it allows me to, what they call in art, get in the zone or the
Mm.
flow state. This is where you're focused on task of drawing something or creating something, and you forget the rest of the world around you, and it's hours in, you're creating amazing things. So I'm wired in a different way. I'm visual. I see words as images, not words. That's my dyslexia.
Mm.
I see patterns in things. I'm sequential, and that's why I studied animation. And the ADHD has given me loads of ideas, just tons and tons of ideas, all these lots of unfinished projects. But the OCD has helped me to organize these ideas and projects. And so I'm always problem solving. I'm always thinking outside the box in terms of my neurodivergence. So that's
Mm.
how it's helped me. My passion.
Yeah, I can definitely relate to the my slight graveyard of projects that I've been doing and putting down and one day coming back to. So getting to where you are now as, like an artist, and you're also working on some business things. How did you get there?
Well, I'm not perfect. I'm on my journey. I have many health challenges, so I've always been helping. As I said, when I was a child, helping people through my art. Those are my two passions: helping people, creating artwork, and I'm working on my business idea of the art wellbeing workshops to help you express yourself using character design. But off the back of that, I've been doing my business research, my due diligence, and learning what they call custom discovery, which is, I use data analytics and programming to find out about my target audience and what they want. And, so I'm exploring that avenue as well. But then there's other new avenues that are naturally flowing, like this opportunity right here to public speak. And as you mentioned at the start, I think games design is something I need to look into as well. So yeah, I'm just going with the flow really, and I'm on my journey. So that's a bit about what I'm doing.
Mm. Yeah, I think it is a lot just about kind of having some sort of vague and not like concrete idea of where you want to go, but making sure that you're taking steps that feel right to kind of feeding into that vision, for sure. Because again, like we kind of said, there's a lot about going with the flow, and nothing can be like fully perfect in some ways. So again, going back to like what advice you'd give to others, what advice would you give to those again who are trying to find what they're good at, and also trying to, yeah, just be happy with what they're doing at the time?
Well, my name Vijay means victory through truth. So I would advise, you to look within yourselves and be honest. I think that's the first thing, authenticity. What are your values? What are you moving towards? Um, for me, it's freedom, honesty, perseverance. There are other things as well, but those are sort of the main things. And once you're aligned with those things, those values, then things will come to you because there's so much resource and opportunity all around us. It's just about aligning with those. Because if you look at a car, if you look at how someone's designed that, someone's made that, it started off as something in the mind. Uh,
Mm.
so that's what I would say.
Mm, yeah, I like um the idea of having, or like paying attention to your values and trying to align yourself to that, because sometimes it is again very tricky to think about like, oh, this person wants me to do this, or like maybe I should do this. So just kind of checking in with yourself and making sure that you're happy in where you're going is very important.
Yeah.
Um yeah, for sure.
I had lots of those other voices as well.
Mm.
You should do this, you should do that. Why aren't you doing this? But I'm me, so that's what I
I
want to
feel like,
learn.
especially in terms of like I mean, I'm sure it's applicable to everyone, of course, but especially when it is thinking about like an artist's kind of journey in the more creative fields, it's very tricky
Mm.
to fight against those kind of voices of being like, why don't you do science? Why don't you do maths? And yeah,
Yeah,
stuff like that. Um, with kind of, what am I trying to say here? So for those who again can relate to like the way that you've been talking about feeling different, struggling to fit in, what sort of kind of, what would you like to say to people who can relate to that?
well, there's no such thing as normal. There is no such thing. We're all unique with a unique purpose in our lives. So make your own path and pursue that. Whatever your dreams are. Just be honest with yourself, and people around you, and pursue what it is you want to do.
Mm,
That's
mm.
what I'm doing anyway. So
That's what I'm doing too. I
high
feel like
five.
it's also tricky to just ignore the kind of comparisons. Like self-comparison is a very tricky thing that
Oh
I
yeah,
definitely struggle with, and just kind of looking at other people and timeline wise as well, like, oh, this person's already doing this or this person's already doing that. And I think it's very important to, again, we all have our unique journey that we're on, our unique path. Things take
yeah,
time, and that's okay.
yeah,
Yeah.
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 For me as well, there was a lot of comparisons, like especially with the culture I come from. Like there was a lot of pressure to do different things, but ultimately, as I said, I am who I am, and this is the gift I've been given. So it's what I'm sharing with everyone, and I'd encourage everyone to sort of you know take away the dirt from around the diamond kind of thing, and polish that diamond, and then you'll see, you start to shine and reflect that light out into the world, and inspire others. So that's what I would say.
100%. Yeah, I think it's the most important thing we can do is try and help other people be their best selves while we're also doing it. Um, And yeah, like we said, that's what these talks are for. That's what kind of having a community is for. I find it very like heartwarming and just so inspiring and useful. So we have been really good with time. So for the next like 15-ish minutes, we'll have like a mini Q&A. So anybody, if you have any questions, feel free to put them either in the Zoom chat or the question and answer Q&A bit of Zoom. So one that we have is, do you have any favorite characters, ones that you've created or otherwise?
Oh, ones that I've created or otherwise. I would just go straight to fan art. I go, to Dragon Ball Z, like Goku or Vegeta or, Broly. There's different series of animations that I really like. Um, so I would go with, yeah, Goku and Vegeta. There's two there, I think, for Dragon Ball Z. But my own characters, it's hard to choose. I don't know if any of you have seen the mural that I've created. It's hard to choose between all the different ones, but I like Horsey Thunder, who's there in the background. I like Squirrel Fever, who's the squirrel dancing like John Travolta. Molly Wonder, actually, I could say is my one of my favorite ones because um, so that was designed for Parallel Windsor, and there
Mm.
was an autistic blind child who is a pianist. Now, it took me 6 months to design the mural, but I didn't know he was going to be there. But he turned up, and so I gave him this Molly Wonder, who moles are blind, but he was playing the piano, as you can see in the mural, and that was just so moving. So that actually is close to heart. Molly Wonder, one of my own designs.
Mm.
So I'll go with those two bits of the answer there.
Yeah, I really like that. I have one question that I'm going to kind of mix my own into as well.
Yeah.
So someone's asking, how do you come up with the ideas for your designs? And from what you just said, they all kind of have names. So do like names come first, or like how does that kind of work? Where do the names come from as well?
The words don't come first. It's not as I'm dyslexic and stuff. I'm being very intuitive, very go with the flow, and just the designs actually just came naturally. I think it's about uh, putting like for me, it's putting myself in a certain state, and when I'm in that state, I can certain designs just sort of come to me, and they all just flow through. All 20 of those designs just flow through, and then I developed those. Um, so it was probably around January this year. So, and then it took 6 months to digitize those and finish
Mm.
those. But the same thing happened the year before. I created the same mural but with 10 human characters, and they just flowed as well. So it's about the flow state. I think hope that helps the answer.
Definitely. Kind of, you might have already kind of answered it, but in terms of kind of finding your inspiration, and even with kind of, I guess, mixing that in with like, I was about to say writer's block, I meant like art block. What is your kind of process for that?
Inspiration wise, oh, so much inspiration. I mean, the Olympics. I could look at athletes. I could look at singers, dancers, actors. They're just like there's so many things are creative. Even things people don't realize, like gardening's creative, food is creative. Creative. I've got a chef character in the mural. I've got different. I've got dancing in the mural. I've got all sorts of things inspire me. It's for me. It's looking at someone and saying like, right, this person's climbing walls. How are they doing that? How is their anatomy designed to do this? And the same with animals, for example, because I've looked at animal behavior for my degree as well. I'm just fascinated with nature, like, the body, like how these things work. So, and in terms of art block, like I get block as well. Yeah, I get like writer's block. I get
Mm.
so stuck at times to try and generate I like push the ideas out, develop the ideas, but I always remind myself that's not how it works. It's not time right now, then that means if it doesn't come out now, it's not time. And so I step back, allow myself space, and just, do all my checking in, meditating, movement, etc., all my management strategy, and then, I think things will naturally flow and come. So that's what I'm saying. Everything is around you. So much inspiration, and I think it's about being kind to yourself and just taking a step back and being as opposed to doing. Being is where so I hope that helps.
Yeah, definitely. Like I think it's so tricky to always remember that, especially when you're like, oh God, I need this like in 2 days and I'm just have no ideas whatsoever. It's definitely important to step away from what you're trying to do and like consume some media that you like, or again, like go for a walk, or just
Yeah,
have a drink. Just have
you
some
can.
water.
You're allowed to distract yourself. You're allowed to watch Netflix for a bit. You're allowed to step back. And sometimes with art, like what we do in art, we would turn the picture upside down. Like if it's a portrait, we turn it upside down. We'd try doing left-handed drawing. We try keeping the pen on the page. There's different things you can do to sort of problem solve, what it is you're trying to do. But I think the brain has two hemispheres, isn't it? The logical and creative sides, and I get it. It is very challenging, but I think everything has a time and a place. So just be kind, be kind to yourselves. Very important.
100%. Kind of thinking not big picture, but kind of like a dream in some ways. What would be some sort of like what would be your like dream to like create, which is a bit nuts to ask, but like in terms of like a mural or like an art piece for someone or of something, like
Ooh,
what would be kind of like a
uh,
dream to do?
that's I haven't actually thought of that question there. I don't know.
It's a bit of a nuts question, to be fair.
Dream sort of mural. I mean, to
Mm,
me, the parallel is the parallel Windsor. To be clear, is a sort of dream come true. Like as I said, the cause is helping so many people. Like when I did the workshops in July, literally there was thousands of people there, and they all have their own challenges. And if I rewind, late 2023, I didn't have any designs made. I didn't have um, anything tangible.
mm,
I knew I'd done the year before, and so I, I believed I could do it, and um, yeah, it all sort of manifested. It came to life, and um, it is a dream come true. But I
mm,
think that giving the work, like creating Molly Wonder, when I didn't know the blind autistic pianist would be there, and him having the painting and posting on social media it's just, I can't put that into words. It would be the answer to your question there. It's like an unexpected, whatever your question was, if that makes sense. If you had unexpected,
yeah.
like that. So I hope that answers the question. I don't know.
No, it does, because that's a fun way of answering it, because it's like I've done it now what?
Yeah.
Like how, not how can you go from here, but it's more so like uh you're already so capable, like what could you do next type thing, like what's
It's sort of like The Matrix, the film. I don't know if I'm allowed to mention it, but it's like when Neo goes to the Oracle and says, "Oh, what's going to happen next?" And she's like, "You've already done it. You just got to understand how, the why." Like,
Mm,
so when you become aligned, your dreams are already realized. It's just a case of walking the steps, and then
yeah.
everything happens, and all the opportunities come, and you grow and you touch others' lives. So
No, I like that. And I feel like it is nice to have kind of like tangible dreams, so you're not always having to like reach for something. You already have something, if that makes sense. Like it's not always a case of, oh, I haven't achieved this yet. It's
yeah,
what more, like what's my next thing, for sure. Um so we
affirmation,
have affirmate,
affirmation.
that's it, yeah. I love an
you affirm
affirmation.
it. It's like in your mind, it's already done. It's just a case of putting it on the page.
Mm. For sure. Kind of, I guess I was about to say we have like 5 minutes left. So I
Yeah,
was going to kind of ask and kind of mention a bit more about our character design
workshop.
workshop on Thursday. So could you, for the people who might not have looked at it yet, like what how will you be kind of leading that, and like what does it involve? And I guess what even is character design?
Okay. How to answer what is character design? That's a I'll go with the first part. The workshop on Thursday is, as I've been explaining here, it's about helping you express yourselves. So what we'll be doing is creating your favorite animal character, and the way we'll do it is using basic shapes. I'll show you how to connect the basic shapes, and you will that you may or may not have the worksheet, which Mivi may forward to you, but it doesn't matter because I'll demonstrate how to create your favorite animal character of your choice, and you can use whatever mediums you have to hand, but the main goal is expression. There's no rights, there's no wrongs. It's all about just having that safe space, to be free to create what you want, and I've been doing some workshops last week, as I said, Parallel Windsor, the Disability Awareness Festival, and I've had children, people coming to me, and saying, I'm not going to be able to draw, I can't do it, and then they give themselves some time, some space, some kindness, and they create amazing artwork, and it sort of teaches them a life lesson for themselves. So um, character design is a process where you have this a character in your mind that you want, that has its own behaviors and attitudes and expressions. So what you do is and character design is very relatable, especially in the neurodiverse field. This is what I found from talking to many people and my life experience, whether it's films, games, animation. The character design is a central element. The character has um, its arc in the narrative, and you can have protagonists, antagonists, different types of characters with different props. And so what you would do is the sort of traditional way to do an animation is you would create what they call turnarounds. Um, like what does the character look? Because it's a sort of 2D idea in your head, right? So depending if you're creating a 3D animation or 2D animation, you need to work out what it looks like from all angles. So that's why they call it a turnaround. You would draw
Mm.
the front, the side, and the back, and then what are all the expressions? What does the character look like when they're sad and happy, and all this? The that again has to be explored in the story and the costumes and etc. But that's more of an elaborate process of character design. What I'm doing on Thursday is very simple, part of that, which is you have this vision in your head of your happy animal character. How do I now get that onto the page if I feel challenged in a certain way? And I'm breaking it down how to do that. So that's my long answer to the short question.
No, that's really interesting because, like you think of the words character design and it could mean so many different things in some ways. And I like having and now knowing that it's like an encapsulation of the different areas of it, for sure. And yeah, like I said, I think Thursday session would be a great one to go to if you're kind of like wanting to experiment a bit, or like even wanting to kind of see like your own process, as well as just learning how to break stuff down and kind of build it up. Yeah, I think it's very useful to not have to always jump to the finished product. It's nice to start from a small step and work your way up.
That's exactly it. That's it.
Mm.
Just break it down. You got the pizza, you cut the slice off, and that's the way to sort of approach it. Baby
Mm.
steps, small steps. So that's what I'm doing on Thursday, and hopefully everyone can attend. And I thank you for the opportunity, everyone at Uncommon, and thanks for this opportunity to speak, so I
Yeah.
hope it inspires and helps all of you, so just thanks.
Yeah.
Thanks a lot.
Just thanks. Yeah, it's been really great talking to you about this sort of thing. Like it again, like I said, it's just kind of really useful to learn from other people and also be able to relate in our different ways, despite like literally growing up in different places and all of that stuff. So yeah, we have been absolutely bang on schedule.
Brilliant.
So again, thank you VJ for joining us, and thank you everybody else for tuning in and hanging out with us and asking questions. As we said, on Thursday we'll have the character design workshop, so I've put a link in the chat and it's also in the Uncommon community. So yeah, feel free to attend that. And I put a post earlier with, as Vijay mentioned, like the kind of, I wouldn't call them even worksheets, they're basically just like guidelines. So I put that, I put Vijay's mural. I also kind of mentioned some materials that you could use if you want. So like any sort of colored pencil, any sort of markers, paper, anything that you feel comfortable with creating with, really. So yeah, thank you everyone, and we'll see you on Thursday.
Thank you all. Hope
Cool.
you have a good evening.
Yes, you too. Bye everyone.